later. Three. ערב טוב. יפה, ערב טוב לכולם. יש אנשים עוד מצטרפים, נחכה עוד איזה דקה ואז נתחיל. טוב. נראה לי שאנחנו נתחיל, אני אגיד כמה מילות פתיחה ואז נעבור להרצאה, בינתיים יצטרפו עוד אנשים. אז ערב טוב לכולם, שמי גיל אופרט-גרף, יחד עם הדס שיינפלד, אנו מנהלים את התוכן של ProductX. כמו שאתם יודעים, ProductX הוא ארגון מנהלי המוצר בישראל, הארגון עושה הרבה פעילויות לאורך השנה, עוד רגע נדבר על זאת של היום, אבל גולת הכותרת זה הכנס השנתי שלנו בדצמבר, זה הכנס הגדול והמוצלח ביותר בישראל למנהלי מוצר, והאמת היא שגם אחד הגדולים והטובים בעולם, יומיים, כל יום 1,000 איש, זה לא הולך ברגל. סגרנו כבר כ-75% מהאג'נדה לכנס הבא, והשארנו בכוונה 25% פתוחים לדברים שעוד יצוצו לקראת דצמבר, שזה האמת שינוי בכלל בכל התפיסה והגישה שלנו בניהול התוכן, עוד שינוי בעקבות ה-AI, וגם ה-75% שסגרנו, בערך 2/3 מהם, 50%, הם דנים ומדברים על AI ועל ההשפעה שלו, גם איך עובדים מנהלי מוצר וגם איך משלבים AI בתוך המוצרים, ובעצם רק פחות או יותר 25% נשארו הארדקור, נושאים בסיסיים על חשיבה מוצרית וחיבור לביזנס, הדברים שפעם היו הרוב, שזה בעצמו עוד שינוי שה-AI הביא אלינו. אז אני ממליץ לכם להיכנס ולבדוק את האג'נדה, היא מעניינת בטירוף, ועם 75% מהאג'נדה פתחנו גם את ההרשמה הסופר מוקדמת, אז אפשר ושווה לנצל את המחיר המוזל של ההתחלה. בואו נעבור לוובינר שלנו היום. לרוב אנחנו עושים את הוובינרים בהפסקת הצהריים, אבל היום הזזנו לערב בגלל הדובר שלנו מקליפורניה. בכוונה בחרנו מאוחר אחרי השכבות הילדים. אני מקווה שסיימתם את הנוהל ואתם כעת רגועים ללמוד דברים חדשים. מכיוון שהדובר שלנו דובר אנגלית, אז ברשותכם אני נעבור עכשיו לאנגלית. So as we all know and feel, AI is revolutionizing us. A revolution on many levels and in many ways. As you heard from the conference agenda, I divide the impact of AI into two areas. One, the way PMs work and the tools we use, and two, integrating AI into our products. Tonight, we are focusing on the second area. Actually, we are not even at the center of it, but we speak about an important enabler that is not talked about enough. Everyone is talking about agents and integrating agents into products. How can you can develop an agent that interacts with your user and do some work in the product, for example, repetitive technical task, maybe reasoning and insight, etc. Advanced agents can also go beyond the boundaries of the product and perform tasks for your user in other places and in other products. Furthermore, agents from other products can enter your product to collect some data and even perform actions. These are really new personas that need to be addressed. It is quite clear that their share is growing and they may soon become the majority. Just a week ago, I think, Salesforce announced that they are killing the GUI and allowing access to their platform only through the MCP. It sounds a bit excessive to me, but it certainly highlights the direction. So, regardless of the agent persona, the whole story is dangerous, scary, and creates a lot of chaos. We used to have APIs. We thought that they are complicated, but today we understand that they are simple compared to the entire MCP world that Anthropic gave us. So we think today this is not just a technical matter for engineering people. It is part of the core of the product, and product managers need to understand these too. And this is the goal of our talk tonight, to share knowledge that PMs need to know about MCP. Our speaker, Adam Seligman, is the CTO of Workato. Adam has decades of experience in the industry. He led product and engineering at Salesforce, built platforms at scale, and now thinks every day about what enterprise MCP means for the future of every SaaS product. This won't be technical nor theoretical talk. Adam will bring real frameworks, real decisions, and a clear perspective of where the product opportunity lies and how quickly that window is closing. Now, feel free to post questions in the chat. I will choose some of them to ask Adam at the end of the talk. So, Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. The stage is yours.
Thanks so much. I think I'm competing with some soccer matches, so thanks for all of you that at least have one window up for me. We'll try to make it interesting, and I'll definitely leave time for questions at the end. Can everybody see my slides?
Yes, we can.
So we have a title here, and I want to make it clear. This isn't a tech pitch on MCP or a product pitch for Workato. We really tried to approach this, had some great help from some team members like Dan here on what all the change means for you as product managers and for your SaaS products. I've been working in SaaS since before it was called SaaS. I've built a couple of SaaSes. A little bit about me. I started my career at Microsoft, working with developers and platforms. I went to Salesforce and eventually ran the platform as the EVP of platform at Salesforce. Google for a couple of years. I ran a number of service teams at AWS. And now for the last year, I've had the privilege of working as the CTO of Workato. And Workato is a 12-year-old company that started with integration orchestration, but has moved pretty quickly to be an enabler of enterprise AI and products, including new standards like MCP. And we launched MCP in our products just over a year ago in New York with Anthropic. And so over the last 12 months, I've certainly learned a ton about what's going on in this world and what other customers and startups and product companies and SaaS companies are doing. So I'll try to bring some of that perspective. I certainly don't have all the answers, and we are in a pretty fast-moving environment for sure. So this is kind of the big idea, this moment that like enterprise software is basically getting reinvented and rewired right now. And we were all pretty familiar with the world we were in before, where SaaS applications would be bought by customers and the end users would use them. And that whole problem of how to make them work together and how to make the data sync up across all of them was basically each customer's problem. Like it was on them to figure that out. And if you bought Salesforce and you use NetSuite, there was nothing from Salesforce that just made it automatically work with NetSuite. You could barely even find documentation on that. I know because I was supposed to write some of that. And they were not easy problems. And then, like we've had various technologies like, SOAP and REST and, the rise of APIs has certainly made some of this stuff possible, but it didn't make it easy. And MCP is a pretty disruptive technology. It's still early in the life cycle of model context protocol, but the idea that an API could describe itself dynamically, that it could express itself in natural language in a way that both humans and agents could understand, and it could surface tools like things the API could do completely differently than what necessarily is under the raw APIs, is a really powerful new capability. And so we're in a post MCP world right now, and I hope every product leader on the phone, on the call here realizes that the world has really changed, and now your product is not just the screens and the website and the things you show your users, but what agents see. And increasingly, they're going to see it not just through API, but through MCP protocol over the APIs. And so the thing you're responsible for as product leader is not just like the clicks they can do in the UI and the jobs to be done through the UI, but how does it show up in agent workflows and make those agents successful? And in some cases, perform a whole lot more value than the app would if it were just humans using it, because now it's agentified and can do things faster and more capably and replace human labor with digital labor. So we're even thinking about our products differently. So I think everybody in the call feels that, or you'd be watching soccer, not me. But make no mistake that the way we design software from now on is completely different than it was just over a year ago. So I thought we'd cover like 4 beats, like 4 things here. First, thinking about how your integration service is actually like, definitional to your product. It's not just a little tack on, it's a core product differentiator. Um, we'll talk about how agents and software work together and how that sort of value delivery happens through that interface between agents and software. We'll talk about like the pressures that the product teams feel when they're now working with AI to define AI products to be used by AI consumers, agentic consumers. There's like a lot changing there. And then I candidly think everybody's facing a build or buy decision right now, whether you realize it or not. And I want to talk about that. Is there a question?
No, nothing.
Okay, cheers. Keep going. Um, okay, so yeah, I know Parker Harris. I worked with Parker for years and I was at Salesforce. And for him to make the statement, why should you ever log into Salesforce again, is a pretty profound statement. It's kind of also interesting that's happening not until TDX 2026. I founded TDX when I worked at Salesforce. It's been an amazing journey that company has had. But to now say now in 2026 at a moment where agents are going to be the front end on top of their software stack, the Salesforce platform is pretty extraordinary. And like I just want to make sure everybody understands this because it breaks some rules that you may be used to as product leaders. Your new users aren't humans anymore. Your new users are agents. These UI features that you put all this work and craft and design work and user feedback into may not have a ton of value, and in some cases, maybe a distraction. And the thing that's likely to win may be how well you play in an ecosystem, not just how well you get customers or users vertically locked into your product. Like I gave the Salesforce NetSuite example. Salesforce did well despite not working well with NetSuite, not because of it. The new winners and losers may hinge on who does work well with others, who does work well with agents, who does participate in workflows. And you're hearing that from, Parker, one of the co-founders of Salesforce. So I posit that your integration service is now actually a moat, and that orchestration with agents is a core product capability. If you're great at it, it's a source of differentiation. And if you're poor at it, you're going to lose. And we hear this from enterprise customers. I just got back from 2 weeks on the road talking to customers all over the world, all over Europe. And enterprise buyers are saying that integration depth is a top 3 purchase criteria. And so if you don't have this figured out, how your app integrates and integrates with agents, you're not going to have good answers to those questions. So it's not just a question of whether you have APIs. We'll come back to this in a little bit more technical detail later. But just keep in mind, MCP allows you to open up your product for integration and agentic orchestration completely separately from your API structure. So you don't have to be beholden just to your current API structure when you decide what you expose to agents. And if you can make those MCP, those integration surfaces, really capable and high business value and expressive, that can be a real force multiplier in agentic workflows. We'll go deeper in that. And hey, I'm not gonna lie, there's a first mover thing happening right now. And when Parker makes a statement like that, on Salesforce, that's a statement to his product and engineering teams of how to think about the future. So there's a first mover thing happening right now. I think Israeli companies are just fantastic at leading the world with true innovation. But I'd really encourage you to like wrap your head around this and get ready to like burn the boats and move fast on an agentic centric, integration centric product experience, because that's likely to be a source of differentiation and your moat. Let's like do a little before and after. So like I get asked this sometimes. I get asked this when I was in Amsterdam last week. Like, hey, if I just have like some chat AI and it's going to connect her to a SaaS, isn't that just the same thing as MCP and agentic orchestration? And it's really not. The new model is not just a chat AI used by an end user with a connector to a SaaS app's APIs. That really doesn't cut it. The new model is an agent working on behalf of a user using multiple MCP servers and tools, working with multiple SaaS companies. And the differences are permissions tied to human roles versus permissions that make sense for agents, where different work can happen out with different permissions, or sometimes with more restricted permissions for high blast radius operations. Um, the ability to deliver value, like ultimately the value delivered is the composite of multiple steps across multiple apps, multiple API actions. And so the value delivered has that compositional quality and can be much greater. 1 + 1 + 1 equals 17, not 3. Um, in the dark blue in the left, integration is like a bolt-on feature, like it's like after the fact, as opposed to like designing right in. And you see how we got here. Like the SaaS companies wanted the product to completely own the workflow. If you're doing anything sales related, do it in Salesforce. If you're doing anything, order related, supply chain related, do it in NetSuite. But that's not where customers are, and that's not where agents work the best. Agents work best not confined inside the boundaries of one SaaS app. They're providing the most value when they work across and work on behalf of the user, use the user's machine in some cases, and really orchestrate an intelligent workflow and deliver a lot of value that way. So my strong encouragement is design for the world on the right that's the future, not the world on the left, the blue that's the past. I think you're all seeing this as product team leaders. The work you're doing day to day is changing. Remember, we could just like spend a month or two and write a PRD and do some user research and then spend a couple months doing design and like we're not in that world. Like we're writing specs, we're writing them in Markdown. The specs are the input to LLMs. They're now going to build things. The specs are not just UI flows, they're API, API driven use cases. When you're thinking about features, you're not just thinking about the user stories and the capability you're putting on the screen, but you're thinking about how is this useful to agents? And those workflows will be not just within like a screen, they'll be like a job to be done as part of a larger business process or event handling, exception handling, true agentic tasks. And so the scope, the beginning and the end of the user journey now is much, these agent journeys are much broader than we're used to thinking about as SaaS product designers. Um, there's all this stuff in engineering to think about now too. I think used to be not as much as a SaaS product manager's domain. There were platform things that were like, the app must meet, but are you going to be handling a lead at a time in the agent? Are you going to be handling batches of leads? Are you going to be handling money that has really important durability and retry characteristics? There's just like the engineering handoffs are just different in this agentic world than they are versus when you're just working on SaaS features. And then measuring success, like, I don't know, I'm used to like DAU and MAU and activation and all those metrics become really different in an agentic world where you're looking at agent use and MCP call volume and agentic task completion. Like it's a whole new set of metrics to think about. And I think the industry is like 20 years of familiarity with SaaS metrics and about zero familiarity with agentic adoption metrics. So there's a bunch to go think about there. So this is our vision. This is like what we're betting our company on. But I tell you, I think you're going to have to figure out the analog for your company, which is how can you become the intelligent execution layer for every agent? How can you take your existing app with its APIs, and it's got some workflows in it, it's got some system of record data and key business events you happen, and how can you get it to show up as governed MCP tools? You have APIs, but your APIs are often utility shaped, not agentic task shaped. And how do you do it without screwing up your roadmap and building new infrastructure? It's so ton of opportunity, but some big challenges. And Workato, this is the pitch, but Workato uniquely can help you do this. I don't think there's anybody else that can help you become an intelligent execution layer for agents. And the reason why we do that is because we've been doing this for over a decade of a rock solid orchestration layer. And we expose enterprise MCP, and we allow you to embed everything you see in the screen in your product. So you can expose core capabilities you already have. You can bring in third-party apps to work natively in with your product. So it's both an outwards and an inwards kind of flow. You can go do bespoke integrations per customer with their tech stacks. Some people use Teams, some people use Slack, some people use Oracle, some people use NetSuite, Salesforce, Workday, namely, like there's thousands of apps, and you need to be able to support every single one of those combinations and just get that stuff out of the way so they can start getting their agentic use cases going on top of all that stuff, those higher value cross-app use cases. And do it without rebuilding. Like, look, MCP is just API. So if you have a deep tech team that can build APIs and observe them and evolve them and govern them, you could build MCP servers. The problem is you need to do that tomorrow, not in 9 months, and not with a bunch of rebuild and long lead times and tech analysis. You want to go really fast. This world is moving crazy fast. And it's incredibly valuable for you as product leaders to be able to innovate weekly with customers, trying new MCP servers, new MC stacks, composing MCP servers with tools and MCP servers with different data sources and apps that feed it. And like do that without a giant engineering engagement. Just do that with Workato with our no-code compositional MCP layer. We work with 10,000 apps. We expose, build custom MCP servers with no code. We compose new tools. Tools are backed by recipes and orchestrations. It's just easier. So I don't claim it's the only way to build MCP servers, but I do strongly encourage you to figure out how you can do this moving really fast without blowing up the rest of your roadmap. Let's hit this why are MCP servers and their tools different than APIs? And I maybe ignore the build versus buy, but just look at the sort of technical descriptions here. APIs tend to be really fine-grained. Like if you look at your documentation of how a developer achieves something with your API, if the feature is exposed to API, it's a whole series of calls, right? It's a sequence of steps and load some context and pick a value and then get a batch set of customers and then or users, pick the specific one, perform the operation. Here's how you write your retry or error handling logic. This is perfectly reasonable for a developer to do that. But pushing that into an agent gives it the wrong granularity and just totally screws up your error surface because now ChatGPT or Copilot is trying to navigate through all that stuff, and it just adds a ton of overhead and risk. The other thing, I was with a customer in Newbury, UK last week, and one of their architects asked for what a good rule of thumb was for what tools an MCP server should expose. And the rule of thumb that we agreed on and the room agreed on was the tools you expose should really be business verbs. They shouldn't look like low-level transactional API calls, but look like a business, like a verb, like a task or an action that makes sense to a business user. Way more likely to be high-value operations, connect to a job to be done, make observability way easier, make your job of understanding what's happening in these agentic orchestrations way easier, and actually, because it's coupled more close to the business, make it easier to unwind or reverse if we're in your error handling. You can even have an error handling tool, right, to handle the unwinding. Another thing is this stuff's changing fast, like each model or revision coming, I don't know, 30, 45-day cycles changes the way the agents work really deeply, allow them to do longer running, manage tools differently, handle more and more tools and more complex workflows. And users are pushing them to the limit. And so you want your tool MCP server and tool service to keep up with this rate of change. If you were designing MCP servers with tools from a year ago, they'd be super primitive to compare with the agents are super primitive compared to what the agents are doing now. So you might be, I think I have an example here. You might build an MCP tool to like, I don't know, update a lead, but the agent is ready to do autonomous, lead development and opportunity pursuit. So you may just really be missing the mark. And so you're going to want to sort of decouple your core API innovation cycle, your release cycle, with what you're doing with MCP tier. I think we talked about granularity and error surface. I'm just going to pause. I know I can't see everybody's smiling face, but I'll take a minute here just to cover this, just to make sure everybody knows. So, like MCP, the model is like it's like a little server. It's a piece of code or a runtime that a client can talk to and ask for a list of tools, and then get a bunch of tools back, a list of tools back. The client can then call a tool with a parameter, and the server does work and get results. And so it feels like a really familiar layer that would sit on top of APIs. Like, so it's a really naive way of looking at this, like, oh, it's just a different wrapper on APIs or just a different API protocol. Um, well, I just want to stress most of the stuff that's valuable, that's really important and critical to make MCP work, doesn't actually live inside the MCP protocol. And that's by design. Um, the MCP has been given to a open source working group as part of the Linux Foundation, the Agentic AI Foundation, AAIF. And there's about a dozen, 20 gold and platinum members. We're a gold member. And I sit, for example, as a co-chair of the process and integration work group. And so we're doing our reviews this week with the core technical steering committee. And but by design, MCP wasn't supposed to handle all the core stuff that's a key issue inside. It was designed to be outside of that. How authentication, authorization, business rules, logging, retry logic, governance, how that's going to work in MCP, and then how it's going to work in like a real business environment or enterprise environment where you've got a lot of these things and you want the governance and logging and all that to live in one place, right? Like point connections are really hard to make work inside a big company because companies have no idea what they can trust. They don't know where their data is going. This is at any large company, like I think many of you want to sell to as you grow your business, this kind of stuff with point connections leads to a lot of tears and IT unhappy and a lot of business risk. And if companies can really like a layer, they can figure out here to get governance and control over all that. So you have the opportunity to provide that and provide more of this capability integrated right into your product. So this is what the future looks like. This is actually based on a customer slide just from my meetings last week. And this desire by companies that you provide to them and plug into a compositional governed enterprise MCP layer, where MCP servers are not just speaking APIs to different apps that they have in their estate, including yours, but they're actually handling pretty complex orchestration, like submitting an order and how to handle retry logic in the order, or what to do with the activation of the service after the order is complete, and what to do with the activation of the service after the order is complete, but payment went through or didn't go through. Those are orchestrations. And those show up as tools in order management that different AI agents can use, but those fine-grained deterministic flows with rules and human in the loop and error handling live in this orchestration layer. We sell this to customers. You can take our technology and put it in your product. You can partner with us, lots of different ways to do it. But this is very likely what your world is going to look like. And you want to deliver value, not just being a little circle back here, but showing up here and unlocking value in agents. Salesforce has made the commitment. They're going to like figure it out. They actually don't have, it's interesting. Despite what Parker said, they do not actually have high value business operation MCPs right now. Like they're going to have to figure it out. So you're not alone if you're not done yet, but it's very clearly where the world is going. Okay. I wanted to, I'll pause there, but I wanted to share this with everybody. This is a blog post from the fall from Anthropic as MCP was really taking off, and our enterprise MCP product was just being launched right around then. Tools are a new kind of software which reflect a contract between deterministic systems and non-deterministic agents. This means fundamentally rethinking our approach when writing software for agents. Instead of writing tools and MCP servers the way we write functions and APIs for other developers or systems, we need to design them for agents. Okay, so this is a great call to action from the people that made MCP of the sort of massive change that it has on all of your product plans and what you're going to do and ship to your customers. Excuse me. So this is a way to think about it, okay? You can even take this Dewey, our little mascot, you can take Dewey off and the Workato off. You need to figure this out, okay? You have apps, your apps have skills and orchestrations like deterministic things over here, but you need to figure out the MCP servers you're going to expose and the business verbs. Like, for example, a sales MCP server, I'm just making this up, qualify and route a lead, book an intro call, launch a follow-up sequence like a nurture sequence, or create a quote for signature, so that the AI agents out in the world really experience your product through these tools. It's a very different way of showing up in the world than with UI, UX, and demo videos and stuff. And your ability to make agents really successful in this world, I think, is going to separate the winners and losers in this pace of AI change. And I don't know, we're seeing it in the software market. You know, like companies that are just over on this side that expose UI are not valued like companies over here that are really bridging to agentic. So I'd really encourage you to figure it out, and we're happy to help. We're not the only way to do it, but we're a great way to do it. So here's like a call to action, you know, spark some discussion, maybe some debate. You have to start by auditing your current API surface and figure out where are you MCP ready and where are you not. Like, just be dispassionate, really do the business verb test, make sure you have the coverage, try to understand what agentic use cases you're going to equip, and then just dispassionately assess if you have MCP ready endpoints or not. I think in many cases you're going to find your granularity is wrong. Just as like you do your product spec, do your next product spec or one of your current product specs that you're working on, one of these PRDs, and include an agent view as a user, just like human users. Like, what are you exposing to agents? What are the high value use cases agents will be able to get done, and how well do you satisfy it? Like, if that's not in your PRDs, I don't know, I'm worried about your transformation in agentic, product ownership. I started monitoring it, the reason why Salesforce is talking about headless is because they're getting used headless. We're using Salesforce largely headless at this point inside Workato with our 1,250 employees. So start instrumenting, the metrics to make sense for agent use. I don't actually know what the best ones are. I'm curious what others find. That might be a great discussion topic, or the follow-up in the group is like, what are the SaaS metrics for agents that make the most sense? I think that's really interesting. And then I really want you to think about build versus buy. Many of you are going to go back to your engineering team, say, hey, we need to do MCP. And the engineering team says, no problem, we've got it. We're going to have an API wrapper next month. And I'm just telling you, I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think it's the right granularity. And so you probably need to, again, have like a critical assessment. How do we get to the MCP shape, the MCP surface that meets our product strategy, and drives our business metrics? I think that's how you should think about it. And the Workato team's happy to help. And we wish you best of luck if you do it solo. I'll pause there. Maybe just one big idea, especially talking to customers. It's different in different regions, but I think certainly in the major markets, we're seeing in, Japan, Korea, Singapore, North America, Europe, maybe just a little slower because like the heavy Microsoft Copilot stuff is kind of slowing them down instead of speeding them up. But net, your window to position in this window is really closing fast. Okay, like Parker Harris, the Salesforce CTO co-founder, him saying that is a message to his company and it's a message to the world. So your clock is ticking. I'm just no direct talk. Your clock is ticking. figure out what your agentic enterprise MCP strategy is and figure it out. Are you going to play in that world or are you going to kind of wait and see? And I think if you wait and see, you're going to get replaced by something that's super agent friendly. If you're easy to integrate with customers' other solutions and orchestrate, that's awesome. If you offer that capability to third-party apps into your app, that's fantastic. But if you wait and you're passive on these things, you're probably going to get left behind.
Adam,
I think that's the bulk of the content I wanted to cover, and I can open it up for questions.
yeah, Adam, um, I want to ask you a question, just because, of course, I'm coming from the field, and I'm meeting like a lot of product people, VP products, and people that are actually sharing with me. We started to build our MCP, and I want you kind of to distinguish between just wrapping an API. I think you discussed this. That now some end users are communicated where the orchestration and in the future, and why the foundation now it's important, right? Because I think that we see as the building blocks, and I think we all run, and this is what I feel from VP products and product on field that I talk with them every day.
Wrapping your APIs seems like a really good first way to get to MCP, and it's not. And the reason why it's not is it pushes a massive token load to the agent, and it forces the agent to become an expert in using your APIs, largely inside the thinking of the LM, not like where a developer can write his code and get error handling and everything, but makes the agent use it. So you're going to make the agents work less. Every 10,000 tokens you put in, right, in this overhead of back and forth and overhead of lots of API calls and descriptions, you make the agent dumber. You burn IQ points and you load it up with context that really isn't relevant for the job to be done. It's like a bunch of fine-grained noise. It's not really qualify and route a lead. It's not really advance an opportunity. It's not really submit an order and roll back as appropriate. It's just fine-grained noise. And so I'd start by, Dan, thanks for the prompt, but I'd start by make sure you have a really clear point of view on your business verbs, your agentic jobs to be done, the high value operations that look, you're a SaaS, you're not a database. If you're given your APIs, it's like trying to be a database company. You don't want to be a database company, I think, for most of you. You want to be like an app company that does high value business app things, not just make mutations to data at rest. Sorry, just the logic is have a real clear point of view on the rich job tools to be done and rich tools that make sense, and then build there. And my advice is, you're going to learn a ton, so do it in a layer you can change, like Workato, rather than hard code everything and make it really hard to change. If you hard code it, it's going to change the pace your APIs change at, which I know you people. I've lived with this. My people, you're engineer. I say your people, you're engineers. They don't like changing that stuff because like it's a contract. You don't like changing a contract. MCPs you can change much faster because the whole world is dynamic. So if you do it in Workato or another way where you can change it fast, you can evolve as you learn more about agentic use cases.
Another point that I don't know if, but the deterministic, I'm hearing it a lot, like the deterministic. If it's a simple flow, it's a deterministic flow. I mean, they used to have like regular workflow, pretty easy, and now you see agents are calling, of course, a lot of MCP and MCP to MCP, and from what I hear, even big SaaS vendors right now. It's really early stages, how those agents or people are communicating. I want you maybe to touch like how this will change in the future.
Let's do two parts there. Okay, the first part is the deterministic and workflows. Like it's so exciting that agents are going to have the ability to like automated run workflows and do everything and not have a lot of a priori knowledge and just run through things. And so I have this actually as an interview question. I ask AI engineers how they would build a system. An example is you get an invoice in the mail, like a PDF in your email. And so how does your company pay it? And they start with stuff like, oh, I'd use named entity extraction to the recognition to like pull out the fields. And then I would like, I don't know, look up the payment information and send them money. And the whole point of the exercise is a rabbit hole because it gets more complicated the more you think about it. Like, oh, who did the email come from? And like it's not just a problem is the invoice right? It's like, do you actually want to pay the invoice? Did the work get done? Did the product get delivered? What does your contract say about payment terms? What is the approval authority for this amount? Is the bank account number they're asking you to pay the same one you signed when you contract? Like it's scary all the way down. And almost always the candidates like tell me they do this, they do this, they do this. It's like, great. So would you do this in your own email inbox personally when you get a bill from somebody that you would automatically pay it? And they say, oh, hell no. Because you need determinism. And so we have found this because we sell Workato to OpenAI, Anthropic, Scale, Perplexity, CoreWeave, LangChain is a customer. Like just these companies are buying from us because when it comes to money and it comes to really handling customers and orders and core business processes well, it has to be deterministic. And not everything is deterministic, but like core business processes has to be deterministic. And that's great because that's where your app adds a ton of value, right? Like you think of all the IP you have in your app, how it does things. It's been coded into the screens and the user journeys and the hard requirements. When you make a change in one place, you enforce changes in another place. Like you build a lot of business knowledge into your app. That's determinism. Make sure you carry that forward. The world is not moving to only agents just randomly making changes to tables at rest. And then you had a second question about Dan about how to embed it. Sorry.
It was more of yeah, deterministic, of course, and not the embedded, the things that, we are early stages and, just the agents, the
Yeah.
customers are using it. And, we don't even see where it's going, we're just right now,
Yeah.
just customer query my MCP and that's it. And it's, it's very early stages.
It's really interesting. In Mercado, you have your MCP servers. You just click and turn them on. And then behind them are skills, just like Mercado recipes are what power, like these deterministic things are what power the MCP tools. And you can call genies, which is our agents, which are intelligent agents that can call other tools. So we already have agents calling agents inside Mercado. The MCP protocol doesn't prevent you from doing that. So like an MCP tool could be another agent exposed as a tool. Google has a standard that they've given to the Linux Foundation called A2A, where it's a little bit of discovery and registration. They've given it to the Linux Foundation, but it's like in a different part, like A2A is in a different part of MCP and the Linux Foundation. My guess is that these things are all going to come together. MCP discovery and registry is pretty close to what A2A does. So I think we're very quickly coming to a world of where A2A and MCP all work together. By the way, that's one more reason why you might not want to hard code this stuff and have your engineers build it, but build it with a layer like Workato, is because we can keep up with all these changes and just support it, and you don't have to like rebuild your thing every 2 weeks while the protocols change. We'll just do that for you, and you don't have to keep up with that. Thanks, Dan.
Gilad על mute.
אתה על mute.
Sorry. Adam, one last quick question. From your experience with people in the field, when you meet product people, do you see that their focus is on how to enable agents to enter their product, or how to send agents to other products and bring data and things like that? What is the most concerned direction?
Yeah, I'm seeing both. Like, look, I built agents in AWS early on. This is all about like how to build agents in our product. And I think we need to do both. I think there's a trap though. I think if you think of your app as the center of the universe and you're just going to build agents in your app and like connect to other things, I think you close off a lot of potential. I think you'll make your current customers happy that you have more capabilities, but I think you shut off the potential of these new kinds of agent-driven workflows across multiple products that deliver a lot of value for your customers. So it's really tempting to kind of want the sort of walled garden and all roads come to you. But I think the future is horizontal, not narrow, vertical inside one app. And I was the EVP of platform at Salesforce, and I built a bunch of integration technologies like change data capture and OData to bring data into Salesforce, like all the, like everything could work inside. And that's a very different statement than what Parker, very different posture than what Parker Harris said now, which is we're going to be headless and exposed to the world of agents. So I think it's a challenge for all of us as product owners to think in a different way, Gil. And I bet many folks on the call are thinking through this right now.
All right. Thank you so much. It was really, really interesting. And have a nice day. Thank you.
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn or
Thank
Twitter, and if you see something that you look really differently, let's start a great debate. Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Great day.
Good night, everybody.